Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. So you two have already made love? Frank almost managed not to grimace when he asked, hating his weak voice almost as much as the bad news he was getting. He blinked to hide his watery eyes, or maybe to make the nightmare go away. But it didn't pass. He stood in the living room and looked at his wife, with whom he had lived for 4 years, while she held hands with some man named Ralph. He looked and was a former athlete, a bit of a bully when he got away with it, and a successful car salesman. Frank, please. I'd rather not answer that question, Anna said in the most compassionate voice she could muster, but she answered anyway. Were there any others? Frank. I mean, when we were married. Frank, knowing that would only hurt you, she said soothingly, confirming it once more. Damn it, Frank felt like a complete fool, believing that he had a perfect marriage and even bragged about it when he was with friends. And now he wondered how many of them had made love to her, laughing their asses off while he praised her. I thought you loved me, he whimpered, hating his weak voice. And it is so. You have to believe me. You are gentle, caring, loving, and I like that about you. But that's not all I want from life. Ralph is bigger, more muscular, more demanding, more masculine. He leads, not just offers. He does all sorts of things, Frank, in every sense. His grin and her blush left no doubt about what she meant. And he has more money. And he has more money, yes. I don't want to waste my life just making ends meet. I want to visit different places, see a lot of interesting things, try everything that life has to offer. Frank just couldn't imagine life without his beloved wife. She was the one and only for him. And although she caused him great pain, he was ready to swallow his pride, ignore her infidelities, start over, and try to fix his marriage. She was still his woman. He was ready to fight, to take some of the blame if necessary. Anna, I know that I neglected you a little to start my business. Frank, I could put up with it if this business of yours would lead to something, but it won't. You know that as well as I do. Anna, I love you. As soon as my business goes up, we'll have a lot of money, he said, ignoring her pessimistic look. In a way, I still love you too, Frank, she said, almost managing to look like she really meant it. But it's not enough. I'm really sorry that I hurt you so much, but it's over between us. Don't try to fight it. It won't hurt so much if you just accept it and move on. Ralph watched the spectacle with a smirk on his face. He could have wiped the floor with Frank with one hand tied behind his back, and Frank knew it. It was much funnier to watch Anna deliberately break his heart while claiming to love him. Be good, okay? I know you will. You'll find someone else soon. Goodbye, Frank, she said softly but firmly. Frank tried to turn away before they could see his tears, but he was too late. Anna gasped, and Ralph giggled. Ralph, she swore. She asked herself again if she had done the right thing. However, the decision had been made, and she had to carry it out. For years later, Anna and her husband stood in front of a huge, sterile-looking mansion. Both were tense. Too much depended on this meeting. It was very hard for both of them. Finally, Ralph plucked up the courage and rang the damn bell. Anna, the man who opened the door, said simply, not showing as much surprise as she expected at her unannounced appearance. Frank, it's you? The guy vaguely resembled her ex-husband, but his appearance just radiated money. He was dressed expensively but casually. In addition, he lost a lot of fat and gained a lot of muscle, as a result of which his posture became completely different. He also exuded a subtle sadness. Please come in, he replied in the same neutral tone. They carefully followed him into the large foyer and entered the living room. Everything was huge, modern, stylish, and predominantly white. The whole house seemed to have stepped out of the pages of an architectural magazine, but at the same time it seemed lifeless. It seemed like a luxury furniture store. Anna didn't know whether to be happy about it or not. No, the more she thought about it, the more horrified she became. She accidentally destroyed this man. He obviously lived alone. The house looked like it had never been inhabited by a woman. It looked both expensive and depressing. Frank, how are you? How do you feel after our breakup? What do you think? Well, you look good. You have a lot of money now. You are well informed. His tone was damn neutral. Yes, we've all heard about your success. All our old friends. They're probably still laughing at me, he interrupted her. What? You think? Oh no. None of them know about mine. Careless actions. Except for those I've made love to, she thought. So you've heard about my success. That's right, Ralph said for the first time. Frank still couldn't stand this arrogant jerk. Nevertheless, the situation could be funny in its own way. So, what do you want? He already knew what they wanted, but he wasn't going to make it easy for them. Frank, I know you probably don't like me very much. The best statement of the year, Frank thought. Nevertheless, this visit is related to business, and I think it will be useful for both of us to put aside our old differences. Oh, this is definitely going to be good for me, Frank thought. You see, Ralph has a business idea, Anna interjected. I thought you wouldn't bother waiting for new business ideas. She just stared at him, stunned. After a few seconds, she regained her composure. Frank, please don't think that I left you for the money. No? You said you love me, but you don't have enough money, and you want to live your life to the fullest. Or something like that. Frank, you were the most loving, gentle man I've ever known, but you lacked determination. Sometimes I needed someone who would just take responsibility for life and for me. And such a person became Ralph, an unsuccessful car salesman, a guy who took responsibility for life, and now came to me, an indecisive weakling, and asked for money? They were both stunned. They expected some hostility, but not such sarcastic and insulting remarks made in such an annoyingly neutral tone. It was difficult to react, because what he said was so obviously true, and they shouldn't have pushed Frank away. Too much depended on it. Ralph was the first to regain his composure. Frank, I know we're probably never going to be friends because of mine. Well, because of what happened, but it's purely about business. I'm looking for an investor. I have an idea to become a rental manager for companies that are in short supply. I don't care, Frank interrupted him rudely. This is something new, Anna thought. In the past, Frank was a surprisingly polite person. It's clear. Ralph tried to hide his disappointment. This was his last chance. He was in danger of total financial ruin if Frank didn't help him. But I'll give you the money. What? They both exclaimed. I'll make a deal with you, but not the one you're thinking of. Frank still spoke evenly and calmly, but there was steel behind his words. This was no longer the gentle, compassionate, and completely harmless Frank they had left behind. Anna thought it was a pity that the man seemed to have disappeared. In his own way, he was one in a million. He cooked for her, pampered her, made gentle, sensual love, but somehow he wasn't enough for her. Living with Ralph, she appreciated the old Frank more and more, but now he seemed to have stopped being who he was. The motives for her visit were somewhat different from Ralph's, although her husband did not know about it. Mostly, she wanted to know if there was a chance that she and Frank would get back together, but now it seemed unlikely. The man she knew seems to have disappeared, destroyed, or at least changed by her actions. The loss of this uniquely sensitive man suddenly became a heavy burden for her. I will give you 50,000 euros. 25,000 in advance and 25,000 after the transaction is completed. Will that suit you? Wow, yes. I mean it. God, 50,000. It's just fantastic. What should I do for this? I'll borrow Anna for 4 weeks. Oh, Ralph said meekly, surprising both Anna and Frank. There was no outburst, not even a feigned one, to preserve a little pride. There wasn't even any hesitation. Obviously, Ralph was even more desperate than Frank had expected. Anna looked almost pleased. Anna? What do you think? Wait, what does that include? I'm not going to hurt her in any way. I just want to spend a few weeks with my ex-wife. So to speak, for old time's sake. The smile he gave the desperate couple was small and cold, but there was more expression in it than in those he had shown so far. Oh, Anna, what do you think? Well, it seems like this is the only option we have, right? She tried to hide that she was very happy about the offer. She was almost elated, but if Ralph felt it, then the deal would be terminated, and the perfect chance to get her ex-husband back, which she had so unexpectedly received, would disappear. Ralph, as usual, did not notice such subtleties. He only saw the money, as he always did. She could see that Frank was noticing everything. He was still as perceptive as before. Undoubtedly, this, combined with his intelligence, was one of the reasons for his economic success. What was she thinking when she cheated on the man of her dreams and left him for this poseur? Yes, it looks like it. Ralph was also trying to hide his delight. It was the miracle he had hoped for. It was a chance he needed, and he was going to make the most of it. He could certainly do without her for a few weeks, although he would miss her terribly, and he would have to put her in the hands of her spineless ex. Although he might not have shown it as much as these unmanly, so-called modern men like Frank would have done, he really loved her. The idea of pimping her out was disgusting, but it seemed like an acceptable sacrifice for their long-term future. Soon he will be richer than even Frank, and then this idiot can be quickly forgotten. When does it start? It's up to you. You'll get $25,000 as soon as we start. Anna? Ralph asked, hoping she would agree. Do I have to stay here right now? I don't have any clothes with me. Oh, don't worry. We'll buy everything you need, Frank explained. Shall we buy it? Oh, wow. Ralph felt a little uncomfortable hearing this. Since he managed to get her away from her loser husband, things have gone awry financially. There hadn't been enough money for a long time, and Anna had a backlog of purchases. He couldn't compete with Frank economically, and for the first time imagined how Frank must have felt when the roles were reversed 4 years ago. Well, I guess. I could use a cash injection as soon as possible. What do you say, honey? Is it okay if you stay here right away? I don't want to think about it too much, otherwise my nerves will give out. It's better to end this right now. Probably, Anna began, trying to sound more reluctant than she really was. I would probably agree. You don't love him anymore, do you? Ralph, this is not easy enough. Please, let's not complicate the situation even more by digging into old feelings and memories. Don't forget that I'm doing this for you. That should be enough proof of my love. She spoke softly and calmly, just like 4 years ago when she told Frank she was leaving him. She gently put her hand on her husband's arm and looked into his eyes, wanting him to believe her. She shouldn't have worried. At that moment, he was completely blinded by greed. Good. I'll leave immediately. This is probably the easiest. Hey, what about my money? Oh, of course. Wait, I'll get it. Don't we need some kind of contract? No, Ralph, it won't be legally binding anyway. I'll just give you the money and she'll stay here. Why shouldn't I trust you too? Frank said, still maintaining that insanely neutral tone. It stung her a little, but Ralph didn't seem to notice. She suddenly felt disgusted with him and with herself for choosing him as her husband. Frank was amazed at how easily they gave up. He had been expecting their visit and had developed his plan a few days before. Everything went more or less smoothly, but he was counting on a tougher bidding and a higher price. Even 100,000 or more would be a penny amount for him, and it was worth it. Frank went to his office, took out 25,000 from the safe, and silently handed them to Ralph, avoiding touching his skin. Ralph looked at the package as if he had just won the lottery. Frank knew it wouldn't be for long. Ralph was even deeper in debt than Japan, and his so-called business plan was ridiculous. Nevertheless, it was his last hope, and he seized on it. Okay, dude. Thanks, I think. You can go now, Ralph. Yes. I just want to kiss her goodbye, you know? No. She's mine now. You have the money. 4 weeks have already started. What? Oh, good. Surprisingly. Nothing else hinted at the arrogant, ruthless jerk who had taken his wife away from him. He was already a defeated man, and more bad news awaited him. This guy carried a big, flashing neon sign with the words "loser" on it. Frank thought that he probably suspected it himself and almost felt sorry for him. Okay, then I'd better leave. Surprisingly, he did so, without too much fuss and unnecessary words. Frank returned to where Anna was waiting for him. Oh, there you are. Where's Ralph? She carefully avoided the word husband. Instead of answering, he simply walked up to her, took her head in his hands and kissed her deeply and passionately, meeting no resistance. After a short hesitation, she even enthusiastically took part. Yes, she remembered. No one could kiss like Frank. She also remembered that no one could massage her legs like him, no one could match him in culinary skills, and no one could make gentle and caring love like him. All he lacked 4 years ago was a tiny bit of male aggression and strength, but she was sure he had it now. And of course, money. When he started to complete what she thought was the kiss of the century, she didn't want to let him go. Wow, she finally exclaimed, still a little out of breath. Of course, you haven't forgotten how to do it. I haven't trained that much. Don't tell me. No one. You're the last woman I touched. Oh my God. Oh, Frank. I did not know. I feel. She looked genuinely shocked. It doesn't matter. Now you can make amends. Her smile returned to full force. Oh yes. I'm going to. When do we start? It looks like I belong to you now. Yes. We'll start right now. To her surprise, he easily scooped her up in his arms and carried his joyfully squealing purchase across the house, clearly heading for one of the bedrooms. His newly developed muscles aroused her incredibly. They undressed in record time and attacked each other greedily. Anna couldn't believe how nice it was to make love again after such a long break. Love with Ralph was good too, but gentle touches, loving kisses were what she desperately missed, not even allowing herself to think about it. She was starved for this, for his selfless way of pleasing his woman. She was determined to become that kind of woman again in the future. No, she wouldn't let him go. This time she will do everything to the highest standard, she thought after her mind cleared from the second climax caused by his skillful language. She also remembered that Frank wasn't used to it, and that's probably why she didn't even have the opportunity to do it this time. Damn, she really was a fool back then. She lost respect for him because of his selfless, caring nature. What madness it was. She was determined to make amends to him. When he entered her, she thought how amazing it was that he took her back so gracefully, without much accusation, with open arms. She also noted with approval that his movements during love had become more determined and demanding than 4 years ago. It was the perfect option. The old Frank with a slight admixture of Ralph and a lot more money. What a man, she thought for the last time. After they lay hugging each other for a few moments in post-coital bliss, she was finally able to speak again. God, how do I feel? It was necessary. She found herself not having time to say how much she missed it. It's better to avoid the past as long as possible, she decided. It was the best love of my life, she said seriously. Yes, it was pretty good, wasn't it? Damn, that was just great, Anna. Yes. To his surprise, tears ran down her face. Thank you, Frank, for everything. He just nodded, and she couldn't decipher his expression. Something had changed, but she couldn't figure out what it was. Overall, everything was just great. So, my lady, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. What are we going to do for the rest of the day? Oh, I feel so good. I think I could just relax and go shopping? He interrupted her. He knew it would cheer her up. It has always been so. She was fully awake immediately. Do you think we could? I think. He paused dramatically. Just do it. Woohoo. Okay, I'll rush to your shower. She jumped out of bed like crazy, smiling happily. By the way, where is the shower here? She looked around, still a little puzzled by the size of the house and even this bedroom. This door. Wow. The bathroom alone was the size of Ralph's living room. A bathtub stood alone in the center of the room. Next to the huge window, which offered a stunning view, there was a shower without a stall. Damn it. She could get used to it. No, she'll get used to it. She chuckled inwardly. She would try never to lose control of this wonderful man again. The shopping trip that followed completely satisfied her remaining feminine needs. Having thoughtlessly spent several thousand euros on clothes and feminine necessities, she realized again how she would like a new life with the same love. No worries, no looking for good deals, no excuses, no discussions. It was all so simple. She wanted to get something. She got it. Around 7 o'clock, they chose a first-class restaurant, and she almost laughed with happiness when she realized that the prices did not bother Frank at all. It was undoubtedly good for her. As luck would have it, Ralph interrupted her blissful state by calling her on an old cheap Android phone. She just brushed him off. Not now, she thought, and smiled lovingly at Frank again. Anna got used to this lifestyle without any problems. In the blink of an eye, a shiny new convertible appeared in the garage. Her wardrobe was completely updated, and she had a brand new iPhone. They made love at least once a day, and it was still as amazing as the first time. For a man who claimed that he had not had love for 4 years, He had certainly changed a lot. Or maybe she had changed. Maybe she appreciates him now the way he's always been. Maybe she respected him more because of his wealth. No matter, everything was just fine. Her paradise was disrupted only by frequent calls and messages from Ralph. Rejecting them was like chasing away a fly. She quickly changed his name in the contact list from hubby to Ralph. It was a deliberate decision regarding his future status in her life. From time to time, she answered his calls and texts, but was determined to let him go as soon as she saw him in person again. Life with Frank has become much better. Surprisingly, after a few days everything got even better. A large suitcase was waiting for her in the middle of their bedroom. Anna looked at her new man with a puzzled expression on her face. Collect everything you need, but don't think about it too much. We will always be able to buy everything we need, wherever we are. Oh, wow, she squeaked. Where are we going? How about European capitals to begin with? Rome, Paris, Vienna? He was interrupted by her exclamation while he was smiling happily at her. It was a pleasant moment for both of them. In the following weeks, they went sightseeing, shopping, and made amazing love in Rome and Paris, and then went to a luxury resort in the Maldives. If Anna could become even happier than she is now, she would probably explode, she thought, purring contentedly after another magnificent session of love. She got her man back, corrected a gross mistake, and lived the life of her dreams, better than she ever expected, better than she could have imagined even in her wildest dreams. Neither of them showed any interest in talking about the past, and to her surprise, his growing company didn't seem to require his presence at all. He could spend all his time with her, and that's exactly what he did. After several weeks of complete bliss, Anna found herself back in their luxurious home. Their house was exactly how she thought of it, although she intended to bring a feminine touch to it as soon as possible. By this point, she loved Frank as much as she had ever loved anyone. This life, this man, was all she wanted and needed. Her responses to Ralph's annoying attempts to contact her became fewer, which, unfortunately, led to even more messages, requests, and promises. She was well aware of how much she was torturing him, and she was determined to let him go as soon as they met in person again. She was finally Frank's woman again, as she should have been all along. Ralph was just a mistake, a momentary aberration. She was lounging on the terrace, catching the rays and perfecting her already beautiful tan, when the doorbell rang. She wasn't expecting guests, but she didn't really care. Frank will deal with this as he does with everything else. She was his woman to the end and trusted him completely. A shadow obscured the sun, and she was finally forced to open her eyes. Damn it, Ralph. She didn't want to see him. She didn't need him anymore. But she knew she had to end it sooner or later. Anna, was all he said. He definitely looked deeply unhappy, but his feelings no longer mattered. She couldn't see the analogy with her own attitude when she broke up with Frank 4 years ago. Oh, Ralph. Okay, not the best thing to say. The problem was, there wasn't much she wanted to tell him. He was a part of her past. She just hadn't told him about it yet. You could answer some of my calls or texts, you know? Ralph, it's different now. It hurt. It was obvious from his already worried face. Obviously, he guessed what was waiting for him and took it as hard as Frank had 4 years ago. Why should men be such weaklings when it comes to important moments in life? What do you mean? He croaked. Damn. She hoped he wouldn't embarrass himself by begging or crying. Her respect for this loser was already pretty low, even without the awkward scene. Well, Frank and I kind of got back together. I plan to stay with him. Let's do this as quickly and painlessly as possible, okay? Anna. Damn. He was really going to cry. Even the old Frank had shown more dignity 4 years ago than this male wreck in front of her. You can keep almost everything you had during the divorce. I only need some personal items. Anna, you can't do this. I love you. Anna, please. Damn, this was going to be terrible. And this is coming from a man who was ready to sell me for several thousand euros? What is it? She asked in a harsh tone. Anna, we both decided to do this. You can't blame me for this, Ralph pleaded. Ralph, she said, changing her strategy and trying to sound compassionate. Frank and I realized that we still love each other. And he has more money, he interrupted her. Yes, he has more money, but that's not the point. That's right, you fool. You left him for me when I had more money than he did. And now the roles have changed, and you're running off the ship again. Well, I am. She didn't have a suitable answer to that question. It was true. Not all of it, but the truth. She saw that Frank was watching the whole scene with a funny smile on his handsome face. She felt relieved to see him. He would take care of her again and deal with this unpleasant situation. She couldn't wait to get rid of Ralph and get on with her new dream life. Frank, could you give Ralph his money? I think we need to solve this problem as soon as possible. Of course you're right. Ralph, here's your 25,000. I'm sure they will help you a lot. Really? Ralph asked, suddenly furious. Do you think I'll trade the woman I love for a lousy 50,000? No, but you wanted to rent it out. Then what does it mean that she stays with you? She won't stay. We made a deal, and I'm doing my part. Anna stays with me for 4 weeks, and you get your money. She's yours again. Enjoy. Frank, Anna said, suddenly feeling anxious. Surely Frank wouldn't let her go after they'd had the best time of their lives together? 4 weeks are up, and I want to thank you both for the deal, Frank said calmly. To say that Anna was shocked is to greatly understate her importance. Frank, honey, you're not serious, are you? You're not going to leave me after 4 amazing weeks just because of some stupid deal with Ralph, are you? Yes, I will. I gave Ralph my word, and I'm going to keep it. Frank, we're back together, as we always should have been. Please, honey, this can't really be happening, can it? In a few minutes, she had descended from the 9th cloud to the level of suffering. Did I say a word about wanting to be with you again? No. I wanted to restore my masculine confidence, and I think love helped a lot. You kept saying it was the best love of your life, and of course you meant it. Ralph winced slightly at that. But you still haven't realized that you haven't done much about it. I did what made him good, and you just got it. Now I know that I can make the same good love with other women. Of course, I also like the fact that you decided to put Ralph on the sidelines for me. I don't think it's going to help your future relationship, but I don't really care. But it will definitely help mine, whoever they are with. That was all she could say, still not coping with the new situation. Maybe I also wanted to show you what you could have had if you had decided to stay 4 years ago. I'm sure the 4 weeks we've had will give you pleasant memories while you're living with Ralph in some cheap apartment, barely making ends meet. I also wanted to show you both how quickly you're ready to jump ship again as soon as the best opportunity presents itself. I can't believe, she stammered. Ralph, could you help her pack her things? He turned to his ex-wife. You can keep the clothes I bought for you. All is not lost. See? You have a new phone and a new wardrobe, a taste of the good life you could have, and Ralph has 50,000 that can be spent on stupid business plans. Frank wasn't surprised that Ralph wasn't too happy with the situation. Yes, he got his woman back, but she unequivocally stated that he was her second choice. She also demonstrated how quickly she would leave him for someone else, just as she had left Frank for him. The future of their relationship was precarious at best. It didn't help that Anna said that love with Frank was much better. Both Ralph and Anna understood that their relationship was doomed. Anna did not want to be disgraced like her men, and was determined to cope with the role change with dignity and without useless persuasion. Without saying a word, with an impassive face, she stood up, took Ralph by the hand, and led him into the bedroom she shared with Frank for a short, wonderful time. Ralph helped her put her things in one of the suitcases, which still had the airline sticker with the return flight from the Maldives. She seemed to be mocking her. Another reminder of her failure. Ralph silently carried the suitcase to his car while Anna took one last look at Frank. He stood expressionless. Wow, she thought. I can't say I blame him for what I did to him. He had a chance to get even, and he did it gracefully and cleverly. She envied the woman who would grab onto this handsome man. She just nodded, smiled briefly, and followed her future ex to his car. The ride home was in silence. Ralph grimly concentrated on driving, afraid that the thin thread that held his composure would snap. He remembered all too well the feeling of superiority and self-satisfaction he had felt 4 years ago when he had wrested this beautiful woman from a lower-class man. The wheel turned, and now he was a loser. In business, in love, and in life. Anna was looking out the window. She saw Frank as she had left him today, and as she had left him 4 years ago. In many ways, he was no longer the same. His financial situation, his body, his confidence and assertiveness, everything was completely different. He could still make her body sing with pleasure, but then he did it out of love for her. Now he was doing it, as he said, to strengthen his confidence. Once he had loved her with all his heart, but now he did not love her at all. She looked at Ralph's gloomy face. It was clearly written on his features that she had destroyed him too. Suddenly, Anna began to dislike herself. Is she really that shallow? Would she destroy the next man if he didn't meet her strict financial standards? Twice already she had run off the ship in search of what she thought were the best options. It didn't do her any good. Maybe it's time to try something different. Frank realized that he was finally truly free. It was not so much about revenge as about restoring self-confidence, and he felt that he had completely succeeded. Finally, he will be able to accept the dating offers that have been showered on him lately. There were much hotter and friendlier women among them than Anna. He didn't care about the money hunters. He didn't think about long-term relationships. It was just his turn to have fun, enjoy life. And that's exactly what was supposed to happen.